But I think, if you like, there's a deal. And the deal in my country I want to be very frank about, which is you have a government that is cutting the levels of business taxation. We are cutting the level of corporation tax on company profits, down to 21%. That is a good, low, competitive rate. And I think the message to business should be, if we are cutting this rate of tax down to a good, low level, you should be paying that rate of tax rather than seeking ever more aggressive ways to avoid it. And I think there has been a problem in this debate in the past, in that people have said, well, of course, there is a difference between tax evasion, which is illegal and should be pursued by the full force of the law, and then there is tax avoidance, which is perfectly legal and okay. And I think the problem with that is there are some forms of tax avoidance that have become so aggressive that actually I think there are moral questions that we have to answer about whether we want to encourage or allow that sort of behaviour. Now, of course, some would say, we'll just keep changing the law to make the aggressive avoidance illegal. But with respect to friends in the accountancy profession, and many friends in the accountancy, it is difficult to do that. So I think there's a legitimate debate to say very aggressive forms of avoidance are not appropriate, and particularly in a country that's set a low tax rate, it is fair to ask people to pay it. But I think there's a very important international agenda here, which is about greater transparency. Countries that want to develop, that need to have good public services, they need a tax base. They need to be able to raise legitimate tax revenues. And we won't see the sort of development we need in our world unless they have a good tax base. That means more transparency, more information sharing between countries, and making sure that there are fair rules of the road for governments to obey, but also for businesses to obey. And Britain is chairing the G8 this year, and I want there to be a real debate about how we have greater transparency, greater fairness, so that people pay their share. But I believe in low taxes. Governments should be trying to get the rates of tax down so that they're competitive, but then I think it's only fair to ask businesses to pay them.